Hi, welcome back to my channel. This week we're going to be talking about the extreme turbulence in the stock market, what's going on with Bitcoin, and of course the return of GameStop. Reddit has just not let off of the gas pedal. Things continue to be crazy. We'll get right into the portfolio. We can see on the day I'm down $2,500, which is just insane. Now, if we scroll over here, we can see every single one of my stocks lost money, as well as my cryptocurrencies. So really not a great day. That being said, it leaves a lot more room for buying. It means that I can get things at a better price. So down almost 8% on the day. Over the past week, down about 9%. On the month, still up about 31%, which is still crazy. 3 months up 65%, or about $11,600, up $16,770 over the past year, and all-time now up about 135%, or about $17,000, which sounds great, but when we zoom out to even a week ago, we can see the portfolio was over $35,000, and I was looking at nearly $23,000 in gains. I did deposit another $150 last week. The total investment in the portfolio is now $12,550. With that $150 deposit, I made a couple of moves as well as utilized some of the margins in my account. So first, I bought $100 worth of Bitcoin, or about 0.0019 Bitcoin. The price there was $51,800. My new position is 0.4958. I'm inching closer and closer to half a Bitcoin. Second, I purchased $50 worth of Ethereum. That's a much smaller holding, so a much bigger deal. That bought me about 0.03 Ether. The price there was $16.72. My new position is 0.195, so coming up on 1/5 of an Ether. Next, I purchased 2 more shares of Verit, the smaller REIT in my portfolio. The price there was $36.73 a share, or $73.46 total. Last but certainly not least, I purchased 1 more share of O, my other REIT, at $61.72. Real quick, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video. It makes a huge difference for me. Now we'll talk about how crazy GameStop's been this week and the potential for an even bigger increase here in the future. Here we can see GameStop is back up to about $106, which is almost inconceivable considering where it's been the past few weeks. So up about 18% today, but we can see it peaked at about $177, which was up 93%, even crazier. So over the past week, up 156%. Over the past month, only up about 20%. But if we zoom out to 3 months, we can see this is the real craziness, up almost 700%, up 2,700% over the past year, and 5 years now, only up about 271%. Basically, there's a belief that a lot of these people on Reddit are just not going to sell their shares of GameStop. I'm not sure exactly what to make of it, but my advice, I try not to make advice on this channel, but my advice would be do not touch this with a 15-foot pole. We just don't know which direction it's going. Obviously, GameStop being over $100 is just ridiculous. There is absolutely nothing to warrant this, and I understand the appeal of sort of this Reddit community, but it just doesn't make sense. If we look, we can see the market cap is back over $6.5 billion. This is not a $6.5 billion company. Like I said, my advice, do not touch it. Now we can get into the holdings in my portfolio that make a little bit more sense. First, we're going to talk about VTI. This one's going to track the entire stock market, so it's pretty indicative of what's happened during any given time span. So on the day, we can see it's down about 2.5%. Over the past week, down 3%. Month, down about 1%. Not much at all. Over the past 3 months now, it is up about 6%. On the year, up about 25%, and that does make a lot of sense considering there was that drop-off last March, and a big recovery since then. Over the past 5 years now, up 104%. And I always like to point out the dividend yield on these ETFs. So we can see the yield here is only about 1.5%, but when you start to compound that and you reinvest your dividends, that really does make a huge difference. This has been an awesome holding in my portfolio, and I'm looking to purchase more in the future. That being said, the $200 price tag is sort of on the upper limit of my weekly investing. So the total return's up about $242, or 25%. On my 6 shares, my average cost is about $160. It makes up 3.5% of my portfolio, and as I mentioned earlier, it does have a decent dividend. That is a quarterly dividend, so the dividends themselves are not going to be huge, but I like this one. Let me know what you think about VTI, or really ETFs in general. Next up, we have the aforementioned Realty Income, or O. This is one of the largest holdings in my portfolio, and one that I'm really fond of. So I have 17 shares here with an average cost of $59.01. My total return is only up about 4%. The big news here is this extremely high dividend. So it's paying out about 4.5% right now. Obviously, with price movement, that varies a little bit, but you have pretty good track record here combined with a very good dividend. So over the past week, pretty flat. If we zoom out to 3 months, we can see it's still down about 3%. Over the past year, it is down 25%, but real estate has been in a funk. It's going to take a long time to recover. Obviously, if you had purchased back in March of last year at that $40 range, when you combine those high dividends that were not cut and this comeback, it could have been a very good investment. So over the past 5 years, pretty flat, only up about 1.5%. But I like this one. It has a 60% buy rating on Robinhood. If we zoom down, we can see, as I mentioned, very strong buy rating, 3-star Morningstar report, and the earnings are very consistent. So this is one that I'm going to continue to purchase. It's right in my wheelhouse at $60, and I really like it. Coca-Cola is a company that I talk about a ton because they are a dividend king. It's a really big part of my portfolio, and I'm looking at purchasing more shares. So I now have 5 stocks with a $1,000 or higher position. This one is about a $750 position, but I would bet that by this summer it will be over $1,000 because I like Coca-Cola so much. We can see a 67% buy rating. Return is showing down about $24, but again, strong dividend here, about 3.25%. But the plus is that we know Coca-Cola is going to increase their dividend. They've done it each of the last almost 60 years. So over the past month, up 2%. 3 months down about 6%. Over the past year, it is still down 15%. And 5 years only up 14%. But we know that companies like Coca-Cola that are in the service industry, whether it be restaurants, concerts, movie theaters, they were hit extremely hard, and it's just going to take a little while for them to get back on track. But really solid earnings here, really good track record over 100 years to look back on, and there's a lot to be positive about with Coca-Cola. JNK is the only bond ETF in my portfolio. I've been focusing on this one a little bit more lately, and it's something that I'm going to continue to purchase more of in the future. Because my portfolio is so risky now between my Bitcoin and Ethereum, I think it just makes sense to try to balance it out with something that's a lot less risky. So the yield is pretty low here, but the risk is also very low. That being said, the total return is up about 5.5% of my position for a total return of about $17. So it's trading for 108.38. As I mentioned, VTI was down almost 3% on the day, but this bond ETF was down only about 0.85%. Over the past week, down 1%. Past month, down 0.5%. 3 months, only up about 1%. Past year, pretty flat, and 5 years now, only up 11%. Again, you're paying for the stability here, so we can see even with that crash of last year, started at $110 and bounced down to about 86, which is a large crash, but compared to a lot of companies and a lot of ETFs in general, not big at all. And this one does have a dividend yield over 5%, another monthly dividend, so I really like JNK. Last stock for today is going to be DraftKings. This is now the smallest stock holding in my portfolio. That is going to change. I'm going to be purchasing at least 1 share for this next week. There's a lot to like about DraftKings and the sports betting industry in general. I've covered this in detail in numerous videos, but sports gambling is still illegal in about 30 US states. A lot of people think that's set to change, and it could be as low as 10 to 15 states that it's still illegal in a couple years, which means that this industry has a lot of room to grow. That's why I hold Penn National Gaming as well as DraftKings. So we can see on the day it was down about 6%, good buying opportunity. Past week, down about 6%. 3 months up 18%, past year up 225%, and it hasn't been public for 5 years, but we can see since that IPO in July of 2019, it is up a considerable amount. It doesn't show correctly there, but we can see it was trading for $9.80 as an IPO. So roughly 450% gains since then. My total return is up 63%, so I'm very happy with that. And as I mentioned, I'm going to be purchasing more shares of DraftKings here in the future. Last, we always have to talk about Bitcoin, by far the largest holding in my portfolio. My equity is now about $22,600. A lot of that is due to the margin trades that I've made in purchasing more Bitcoin. My average cost is up to $20,256. As I mentioned earlier in the video, just a smidge under half of a Bitcoin makes up about 2/3 of my portfolio. We can see it was an abysmal day for Bitcoin, down nearly 10%. I think I have about $1,000 in margin left in my account, and I may be exercising that in this next week. We'll just have to wait and see. My personal belief is that Bitcoin's going to continue to skyrocket from here on out to the end of the year, but we're seeing a pullback because of how quickly the price increased. So over the past week, it is down about 11%, but if we zoom out, we can see the peak here was about $58,000. For the first time ever, Bitcoin reached $1 trillion in market cap, which was an enormous step. So over the past month, it is up 43%. 3 months up 143%, year up nearly 400, and 5 years now still up about 10,000%. If you're not super familiar with Bitcoin, we know that it's going to move in waves. It's going to move very dramatically. It's going to, potentially have a plus 10% day, and then you could see a day like today where it's minus 10%. And that's just part of owning Bitcoin, is understanding that it's going to be very erratic. That being said, I want to continue purchasing Bitcoin until the end of the year. Everything I've read says that the price could end up anywhere from 120,000 to 500,000 by the end of the year. There's no way to know for now, but if nothing else, continue watching to see what happens, because it will be an interesting ride. I can guarantee you that. That will be it for this week's video. Thanks, and I'll be back with another one next week.